Interesting, is of great interest because a few years ago we had a task force that went around the country working on how to implement safety in schools. And few years later, children have died again. So leadership and implementation seems to be like the greatest disconnect that we ever have as a country. And I feel all of us, we need to begin to take leadership as a role where strategies are implemented. But the way it appears, looks like many leaders are not yet there. They are preoccupied with many other things. Those who are coming from political backgrounds, they are preoccupied with politics, and others are preoccupied with corruption and cutting deals. And when all this happens, you find that implementation is dead. And then what we worked on to correct, you find that it becomes a full circle. We come and find ourselves back there. With me in studio is my brother John Kabugi to discuss on what happens when leaders do not implement and why will they not implement. Karibu sana, greet us and take us on.
Asante sana. Good morning, viewers. This is a very serious topic, and it's a somber one because sometimes we never stop to visualize the reality on the ground. A parent takes a child to a school with the expectation that the child is safe. And then you get a call or you see it in the news, and the next moment you're receiving a corpse, you're receiving a patient who's critically injured. 16 students dead, even one student dead, leave alone death, even injury from this.
It's unacceptable.
It's totally unacceptable. So when you begin dissecting the issues, the first thing you find where there is authority is where there should be accountability. That's where you start. Who is accountable for these standards? A primary responsibility of government is to ensure the safety, to protect the lives and property of its citizens.
That's right.
Number two, so the citizens delegate their sovereignty to the leadership of a country, and the leadership is supposed to now at ministerial level create policy, sound policy that's supposed to manage these issues. So in this case, the Ministry of Education is tasked with the specific responsibility to create these policies. But it's not enough to create the policy if, exactly as you correctly note, number one, there's no enforcement, which means audit to make sure that schools are actually adhering to these standards. Not just audits, but inspections, surprise visits. And then another side of this is not just the enforcement, but the funding. The government has a responsibility to ensure the requisite funding to schools is given. Every day you hear heads of institutions in this country complaining about something called capitation. Capitation, like the word suggests at its root, it's the same root as per capita, per head. So each student, when we say education is free, the government is supposed to give per capita for each student a capitation amount that's supposed to facilitate free education in this country. So it's supposed to go towards books, it's supposed to go towards infrastructure, it's supposed to help the schools execute on these policies. There's a gap because there's underfunding in terms of this capitation. You always hear, I'm a part of a board of management, number one. We had a meeting last week and we were discussing capitation and now what we do to close that gap. I've chaired boards of management and the same issue keeps coming up, that there isn't requisite funding in these schools to execute on this mandate. So you're forcing the schools to do more with less. So you're giving policies that they can't execute, yet it is the responsibility of that government to fund. Secondly, our priorities are lopsided. There's so much money being wasted, so much money being spent, and we forget you know, the basics, the core pillars, education, health. Most importantly, zooming out, as a society, we are very lackadaisical about safety. So you notice that in these incidents, there is enough blame to go around. Number one, if you look at the history of these fires, the serious fires where there have been fatalities, you can trace them all the way to 1970. So they keep recurring. You know, every few years there's a fire. Majority of them are arson. Arson means criminal setting or starting of a fire. Majority of those arsons are created or the root cause is that those student dissatisfaction with a certain issue. There's a way we are managing issues both in society and in these institutions where you find that dialogue, listening, responding. Students are calling for basic needs that are not being addressed on one side. And then there's the issue of parenting on the other side where it shouldn't be that dispute resolution amounts to having to set a school on fire. Yesterday there was another fire in Murang'a County. Yet another school got burned. Fortunately, there are no injuries or fatalities. But again, it's based on this sort of dissent where students feel they're not being heard. As a society as a whole, we have a responsibility. The boards of management of the school have responsibility. The parents have responsibility. Parents cannot access boarding schools. To see and be able to hold the school to account, to see the facilities where their children are sleeping. You hear in this case, the ones who perished had an expectation of safety by running to the emergency exit, but that exit was locked and they perished there. The ones who went through the main door, unfortunately, that's where the fire was. There were injuries, but at least they got out. So we need to, and then this whole approach, like I was saying before, do we do fire drills? Do we have policies? Do the students know what to do in the event of a fire? Do they have an assembly point? These standards that were created in 2008 and that keep being updated, they provide minimum distance between bed, minimum distance for the passageways. The door should open outward. There should be no grills on the window. You know, basics. There should be a fire alarm. There should be... If you go to these schools, it's not happening. So there's enough collective responsibility that as a society we should intuit, and then we are a reactive society. Now you're seeing everybody. That school is associated with the National Police Service.
So now, because it is not the first time there has been fire in schools, and there are leaders in office, because the thing that we focus on in this show is the leadership and how challenged that leader is, and what can be done to make sure leadership is seen to be effected. What happened to the guidelines, and who are the people who are supposed to follow up the matter, and who is responsible for supervision? Who is supposed to supervise and make sure schools are there? Are there people that are taking salaries and they have just absconded from their responsibility?
So, like I said, there's enough blame to go around. The first one, that policy that was created in 2008 after yet another fire, and that has been updated constantly. The first, like I said, once the policy is created, there should be enforcement. Enforcement means people should actually go into the schools and audit or inspect and ensure it's being followed. So that's a first failure. I had a cabinet secretary making a statement and saying, we will find out if the school had adhered to those policies after the investigation. We will find out. You should know.
A minister is saying they will find out.
They will find out. It's a part of the investigation, but it shouldn't be part of the investigation because...
Is it the Minister for Education? Because the buck stops in that office.
Yes, and there should be annual, at a minimum, at the very worst, an annual inspection, an annual audit to ensure that this what is the school's prepared? For example, there should be a file of the last audit and say, according to our last inspection done 6 months ago, the school had this. They should have that in file. It should not be subject to an investigation. So we are a reactive society where we are doing things after the fact. You see people come in, there's a lot of press, photo opportunity. But to answer your question directly, the responsibility comes from the community. Some of it is delegated to the board of management. The board of management does have accountability, even in law. And that accountability, like I said, I'm serving in a BOM as we speak. I've been chair of a BOM. So you are even held responsible individually.
Yes.
So that is another responsibility. The institution, the head of institution, the administration also has responsibility. There are even student leadership responsibilities. I was a captain in school. I was in charge of something they call, I was a chapel captain on one side, and then I was a patrol captain. You're in charge of discipline and some of those things. Who is where. So we had roll call 3 times a day. We had, the captains would have a house master or a house mistress who they would report to, and their house is right next to the boarding facility. That's another responsibility. That particular policy requires an adult level, you call them matron if it's a lady, patron if it's a gentleman, you call them house master, boarding master, house mistress, boarding mistress. They should be the ones to inspect and make sure everybody is where they're supposed to be. And then this preparedness. We are seeing schools where doors are locked from the outside at night and then opened outside. It's like people have institutionalized this boarding institutions to the point that it's more of a prison. So this mentality, we need to have a paradigm shift back to safety. So in terms of leadership, the accountability is first with the ministry to, after creating the policy, to fund it.
How is the hierarchy looking like? Because from the minister it goes to the PS, from the EPS it goes to there are county education officers and sub-county education going all the way down. So there's and I really want you, because that is now the leadership we are looking at.
So there's a regional director of education. There's so it goes from regional, it goes to county level, sub-county level.
Okay.
Every school is tied to what is called an SCDE, Sub-County Director of Education.
Okay.
If it's a primary institution, there's a county, because primary school, some of it was devolved to the counties. There's a director of education on the county side. There's a sub-county director of education on the ministry side, right? So these are the people tasked with now that responsibility to make sure that, one, there are random inspections. You remember schools used to have inspectors who would just come at random at any one time and look at literally.
I saw that when I was in school. I saw that.
Yes, and they would literally come into class, look at the classroom in session. They would go to the boarding facilities. This is part of that. Every school that receives money from the government has what is called an audit every year. And that audit, again, is organized by the same functions. So there's a whole hierarchy. And like I said, authority is delegated to the board of management. Okay. The board is supposed to guide, to provide guidelines, to create and ensure enforcement of policies, because the board is appointed by the ministry on one side. It has representatives all the way from parents, representatives, members. Like
I am also a BOM member.
Thank you. And everybody there has a role. In the BOM that I serve in, I serve in that because I'm a member of that community. Okay. In another BOM, another parent is a PTA member. Another one is a community representative. In terms, they're all delegated roles. Okay. So basically, at the end of the day, everybody has, parents have responsibilities. They should be able to inspect those boarding facilities. We are getting to, again, a conversation where now we have to revisit this whole issue of boarding schools. Are they safe? Should we now look towards, a day scholar kind of education? Because boarding facilities right now are not delivering the way they are supposed to be. Parents are not feeling safe when they take their children to school.
You see now why you hear me raising my voice is because the BOM meets occasionally.
Yes.
But in the ministry hierarchy, there are officers who report to work every morning. And those are the people that we need to scrutinize and see what is their role. Because we cannot say we will wait until when the BOM meets, because they are not employees of the ministry. As much as they have delegated responsibilities, they are not the ones that are in charge.
Yes.
And in any case, I think I saw an education officer come to launch the BOM, which means that sub-county
Director of
Education as like an executive role in some of these things. So where are they and what is their work? And in such case of this one of Gilgil, who slept on the job?
So the first point is that, I'll give you an example. As a board, the BOM I serve in, we met last week. And again, we were discussing those issues of capitation and see where we close the gaps. And we create, all the necessary protocol and procedures to make sure we execute on this mandate. Now, I chair a committee that's called SIC, the School Infrastructure Committee. And that now, again, is a subcommittee that is tasked with specific responsibilities around the school infrastructure, facilities, and all that. Fortunately, this one is not a boarding institution. Now, to your point, the sub-county director of education is a role that is very hands-on, because they are at a granular level in every sub-county. They're within proximity of the school. They're the ones supposed to facilitate the inspections. They're supposed to oversee the board of management and whether they are working or they are not. They're the ones who are supposed to, for example, even this audit report, they go to them. So at that level, you find there's responsibility on behalf of the ministry to that SCDE to make sure that everything at the school is the way it should be. For example, those policies require that there be fire protection equipment. There should be a fire alarm. Does the school have a fire alarm? Do the students know how to sound it? Do they have an evacuation plan? Do they have an assembly point where they're supposed to meet when there's a fire? Are there drills conducted to make sure everybody is in line with that? So the sub-county director of education has a lot of responsibility. Like I said, below...
I'm trying to, I'm thinking even as you are speaking, and I'm wondering, how are the functions cut out?
Okay.
How are they described? Because it cannot just be like, the kundudo kind of a thing, if I can use that word, because it looks like everything spirals around. Are there clear departments? Is there a department that deals with school safety in schools? Is there a department that deals with finances in that office? Okay, how does it work? Does it just work like all over the place, or there are clear departments that are tasked? Because if then there is a department that is tasked with the safety in schools, then those are the people we should go for.
So let's start from the top. You had one of the stakeholders yesterday saying the cabinet secretary was supposed to have facilitated the formation of the educational standards and safety council, right? And you find that structure is supposed to roll all the way, like you said, to that sub-county director of education's office. In that office, there are different departments. There are education officers, there are quality assurance. Now we're talking about quality assurance in this place. Safety goes hand in hand with the quality assurance. There is a gap because I talked earlier about priorities. You will find these sub-county directors of education in schools every so often, but is the priority really the things we are talking about, safety? Do they ever do the quality assurance? Do they read those audit reports? Do they engage the boards? Do they engage the heads of institutions? Number two, beyond just organizing and performing, there should be that random checks, the inspections, the school inspections you're talking about, the quality assurance inspections. Number three, there's the whole idea of enforcement versus holding schools accountable. So enforcement means you go and ensure execution, the word you started with at the beginning of the program, that these policies are being executed. Number two, where there is a funding gap, where there is any gap in the school not being able to for example, it is very expensive to implement these fire standards that have been coded into this particular 2008 manual. The sub-county director of education is supposed to work with the board of that school to find solutions. Do you go public-private partnership? For example, there are people, just this school, the school this week, the school that I was in, we went and revamped the fire squad. And was in another TV station from early today morning. My co-panelist there happens to be the person who reached out to me and asked, I want to be able to help this school in memory of one of my classmates who was a captain with me, who was in the fire squad. So they brought the fire brigade, they brought fire equipment, they helped train the students, they created all this. So it doesn't always have to be that the funding is there. The sub-county director of education should work with the head of institution and the BOM to create programs where there's community level participation, public-private partnership. Most importantly, at the end of the day, there should be, like we said, regular inspections, reports, and consequences of those reports. Which means if the school was found to be wanting from a fire standard, for example, we noticed the school in Gilgil, there are grills outside the window. This policy specifically says that there should be no grills outside the window. Somebody, had they gone to the school, or if they went to the school to inspect, they would see that those grills are there. Number two, this door did not open outward. That's why when students are running out of the dorm via the main entrance, most of them got injured in that place. At least they were able to leave, because the ones who died were running towards the fire exit, which was closed. It was locked up, they could not access it. That's another standard, another policy requirement says that there should be fire exits and they should remain closed. These distances between the bed, the aisles, a lot of students were caught in a stampede. I had a parent talking about a student who rushed in to get a fellow student who had broken their leg. And they were talking about the psychosocial aspect of it, the trauma, because this student had a daughter, witnessed another student burning from the hair, collapsing, and that was it. And she was saying these people are so traumatized. So all these aspects point to failure in what we're talking about, that there should be that inspection. It should be done so regularly, at least once a year, and that report shouldn't just sit in somebody's desk. Again, the sub-county director of education, that function has departments that are supposed to now enforce and say, you failed this. Yes.
Let's look at, the minister, the cabinet secretary for education will be changed from time to time. But there should be an executing office in that ministry, and I believe that is the PS, who is not appointed politically.
The technocrats and the bureaucrats.
Is a civil
servant, yes.
And is there, and he remains even when another minister is brought in. So, you say, the minister is saying that they were supposed to set up a safety ward.
So it's an education standards and quality assurance, which includes fire, council. Yes, and that council is, yes, go ahead.
So it was supposed to be put in place.
Yes.
But if you blame the cabinet secretary that is there, and then there has been a PS who has been in that ministry for a long time, the failure may not be coming from the cabinet secretary, because the PS knows this is something that needs to be implemented.
Yes.
This should be the person that is able to that is supposed to be informing the cabinet secretary that before you came in and from your predecessor, this was going on and it needs to be completed. This process needs to be completed.
Yes.
Because in this leadership show, we want to see where the failure is, where the challenge is. And then we, by our talk here, our aim is that somehow we will challenge somebody to arise and do the right thing. So who is in the problem here? Who has made it not to be implemented? If it is a safety board or safety kind of a structure that needed to be put in place, is it the cabinet secretary or is it the PS?
It's a little bit of both, because in leadership, accountability, like I said, is at the top. The person who has ultimate authority is also ultimately accountable. Now, that accountability is delegated, just like the authority is delegated. There's responsibility, which is what you're talking about. There are technocrats within the ministries. There are bureaucrats within the ministry. There are actual career officers, in this case, the principal secretaries, who are supposed to facilitate that transition even when the cabinet secretary changes. So it is the responsibilities on both sides, because number one, the CS is accountable. At the end of the day, they are the ones who are supposed to account for the implementation, because he's the appointing authority for that particular council. And then now when he delegates his duties or authority to the PS level, he should also be the one holding them account to establishing, keeping to those milestones. Number three, the PS themselves are accountable, and whoever in that office. So this accountability goes all the way down to the person who's supposed to execute it. The problem is that nobody is...
Can we be outrightly clear in this conversation here?
Yes.
That if orders were issued, if the PS was keen on ensuring that safety standards are kept in every school, if there was a circular or memo sent, and then inspectors and supervisors sent to make sure that it is happening, can we, we cannot, we cannot just beat about the bush and just, walk around and make a quagmire, it's like you cannot pin anybody. Can we be forthright here if the PS or if a directive had been issued and if they were keen on ensuring the standards are kept, they would have been kept? Can we be forthright about that?
Like I said, in leadership, responsibility and accountability is at the top. So the CS, if there was a failure of the PS, it's still the CS who's accountable, because one, he's the boss of that PS. Number two, he's the one who's supposed to keep them in check. So, but to your point, granular responsibility, yes, does go to that PS. And that's at a technical level. And remember, there's a PS for primary education, secondary education, tertiary education. So there is delegated authority for specific sets of institutions. Notice something. These fires are always set in dormitories, because like I said, most of them are cases of arson. When's the last time you had a lab or a classroom burnt? So there's a specific failure in a specific set of institutions and in a specific area, which is the boarding area. I was in studio with a teacher this morning, and he was saying when he went for his degree, the 4 years he was in university, nobody taught him anything to do with being a boarding master. But now when he found himself in a school, because he was saying either because of the way he articulated and presented himself, and number two, because of his good relationship with the head of institution, he was appointed as a boarding master. He said he did not have the training, he did not have the skills, he did not have the preparedness. So there is a failure even in that angle. Who does all this come down to? You're right, the PS level, because they are the technocrats and the bureaucrats who are supposed to be, executing on this mandate. The CS is supposed to be holding them accountable. That's where leadership, the buck stops with the leader at the very top. And it goes all the way to the president, by the way. Now, if you're a citizen of Kenya, we've been saying that you're the one who's the board that appoints this executive. These are the things, when we say it's a report card next year, these are the things, if we were not a tribal kind of country and all this politics based around tribe and parties and all that, if it was really issue based, these are the issues we should be holding our leaders to. But again, the leaders are a reflection of the people. We've allowed it to be, it has become normalized that every few years, the Hillside and the Russia school was just
Yeah,
How long
yeah,
ago?
yeah, yeah.
You know,
Just a
just the
year
other
ago.
day. And it's become almost normal because people come and you see them land with helicopters and all this fanfare and press, even photo opportunities. And then there's a public relations thing and everybody shows up, and then shortly thereafter, the recommendations from all these fires cumulatively are not being executed. It's like we are doing the same thing over and over again, and expecting different results, which they say is the definition of madness.
Do we really take responsibility when things like this happen? Because there seems like nobody is feeling like I have failed. Because it is at that point now then we can begin to turn around our country and the way we do things as a country.
Yes.
Who is taking responsibility for this, and what should they do?
So there's the Basic Education Act, which sets out how schools should be managed, policies, procedures, and everybody's role.
Yes.
According to the law as it stands today, accountability should be from the top all the way down, like you've spelt it. There should be accountability at the CS level. There should be accountability at the PS level. There should be accountability at the RDE, the Regional Director of Education level. There should be accountability at the County Director of Education level. There should be responsibility at the Sub-County Director of Education level. There's responsibility to the Board of Management of that school, and there's responsibility to the head of institution. All those roles should be held to account. Remember,
what should they do? Should they continue just sitting in that office?
No.
Because if we are talking about Hillside and the Russia fire just the other day, and we have now this one, right from the time that fire started, you know, the most famous was the Changoli, Machakos, Changoli boys, and up to now. I feel like when something like this happens, we should see heads rolling.
Yes.
We should see people taking responsibility.
Yes.
And we should see people, you know, face consequences for their failure.
Yes.
And sleeping on the job.
Yes. Like I said, there's a saying that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results.
Yes.
Because there wasn't that level of accountability, there wasn't that level of people being held responsible. We keep repeating the same mistake. You mentioned Changuli. I hear people call it Kianguli, it's Changuli. And 67 students died in that fire.
Yes, 67.
67. It's I believe it's the highest number of students that perished in a fire. In a single fire incident, okay? Number two, most of these have to do with arson, which is a criminal offense. And number three, there is all this responsibility, like I just said, where people should be held accountable criminally. Because there are criminal offenses tied to that. Civil accountability, and most important, in terms of people's jobs, heads should roll. So and that's one of the places in this country where I'm saying there's also responsibility of the citizenry, because one, the citizenry are the parents. They're the ones who take their children to school, and the Parents Association should, one, be ensuring that even the boarding facilities themselves meet these standards.
Yes.
On the other side, we hear parents are not allowed to go into these schools. You're told to drop off your child at the gate, the rest to a cheer. Trust us, okay? It's getting to a point where these are death traps, because who is supposed to ensure and hold people accountable? Number two, the responsibility of the Board of Management. Number three, the head of institution. Number four, the whole chain of bureaucracy up to the top. There should be accountability, which means if you are a CS and in your term these things happen, you should not continue in your job. Yes. Because if there's that council that was not gazetted properly or created and formed, that accountability is with you. The PS who's responsible for the same, that person, the head, should roll. It should be all the way down.
And at the tail end is down there at the principal's office.
At the principal's office.
Because that principal is an officer of the ministry.
An employee of TSC on one side, and then they are the ones legally responsible they're the head of institution. They're responsible for the day-to-day management of that institution. Yes.
So there is also a lot of responsibility on the principal of that school.
The principal is also the secretary to the board in the way it should work properly.
Yes.
So they're the ones who guide the board into what issues are there in the school, what gaps exist, infrastructure, is it sound, the policies that are supposed to be in place, so that now the board can guide and facilitate and do the requisite task needed to make that happen. The head of institution has a lot of responsibility because, and we hear in this case, for example, that the matron who was supposed to be there was not physically present with the school. It is a requirement of those standards that an adult be there in person and make sure that everybody is accounted for and
the doors are
locked the right way. There's no obstruction where on the path. Yes. So even the head teacher is the boss of that matron, who is typically a teacher. But again, there are all these lapses and gaps. So yes, the head of institution should be held accountable. The board of management should be held accountable.
Okay.
And then the whole food chain of bureaucracy.
And do you think this trend will ever change unless people take responsibility and they are fired from their position? Do you think really this fire issue will ever stop? Because somebody must take responsibility, must go home because of that failure, that one failure.
Like I said earlier, and like we have said many times here, until the citizenry, who are the board of directors, the bosses of these leaders and politicians, draw a line and say this is not acceptable, nothing will change. Because one, these leaders are a reflection of the people who elect them, which means we are the ones who are accepting this low standard and making it normal, right?
Okay.
Now, number two, within that leadership, once you delegate as a citizen of a sovereign country, once you delegate that power during the election and you interview these people for their jobs and you give them the job, you hold them accountable. So the first thing is, next year is yet another chance for the citizens to hold the leadership of the country, even in these particular sectors we are talking about, accountable for delivery. Because again, if we keep doing the same thing over and over again, we should not expect results that are different. Now, the question is, or rather the answer to your question is a direct, unfortunately, it will happen again.
Unfortunately, it will happen again.
It will happen again.
Yeah, because
until
nobody will take
somebody
any
is fired from their job.
Yeah.
If you're a CS and you're fired from your job, if you're a PS, you're fired from their job, and this whole bureaucracy, and these people are held to account, right? Unless that happens, then there won't be a change. Because guess what? Right now, there are so many heads of institutions who are quickly now doing fire drills and audits and trying to look at these standards. It's like...
But that is cosmetic.
Thank you. Every time, and it's reactive, you know?
Yeah.
We should be proactively ensuring these things are in place. So, unfortunately, we've created a corrupt way of doing things as a country where people are not being held to account. Look at the fanfare with which, if you are a cabinet level official, a public servant, arriving at such a place, the fanfare we saw should not be. You should come with humility. You should come with your tail behind your legs, because that's why you saw parents getting angry to the point of stripping their clothes. You saw a father removing shirtless and just losing it and saying, I'm seeing all this PR, I'm seeing all this drama, I'm seeing somebody...
Where were you?
Where were you, and why are you not letting us, you know, access our students, or telling us who has briefed the parents, you know? The parents are losing their minds. There's a psychosocial support. And again, leadership is not being held to account. We've seen people demonstrate for lesser reasons. Why don't we get to a point where as a society we say it is no longer acceptable to lose one child? It's no longer acceptable for a child to be injured in a school where there's an expectation of safety. Remember, the ones who died ran to the fire exit. They expected to be safe
by
they
the fire
knew that
exit.
the fire exit
That
job,
is established
that's
system.
exactly what it is for,
Yes,
because
yes.
what was burning was the main door. But that's where they met their death. Why? Because some person locked that door, and with all this chain of responsibility we've talked from the boarding, if it's a lady, it's called a matron, if it's a gentleman, it's called a patron, from the boarding mistress or master at that level, from the school's head of institution, from the board, from the parents association, from the ministry, from the inspectors and auditors, all the way to the sub-county director of education, going all the way to the county and regional, and to the PS and the ministry. People, had anybody even noticed that fire exit is closed? How many times do you go into a building and see the fire exit is locked? It has a chain around it. Desks or other obstructions are in the way. So as a society also, we have a very lackadaisical approach to safety and standards. So the unfortunate answer to your question is, as long as we keep tolerating this level of mediocrity as a country, the fires will, and they're a symptom of the leadership problems we have in this country. And until those are addressed, then we'll keep repeating the same mistakes over and over again. Unfortunately, these are children. Put yourself in the shoes of a parent who sent a child to that school
and trusted the leadership.
And then trusted that the child was safe and would come back to you over the holidays. And then unfortunately, they came home as a corpse in a coffin. Now, there's the other side of a story which says these students, this was likely a case of, from preliminary anecdotal evidence, it suggests it's a case of arson. There were some student issues. That also needs to be looked. How many times have we looked into these issues of students burning schools? That as on the root causes. Why is there so much disconnect between students and the administration to the point that students feel they have to do some of these things? You remember there was a student who was convicted from one of the fires, the Moi Girls School fire, and that was a Form 1 student. And she said, I didn't intend to hurt anybody. I just didn't want to be in this school and nobody listened to me. So that was the way of venting. So there's an issue of root causes. Again, most of the time you don't see classrooms burning. You don't see labs burning. You don't see the stores, the kitchen. Thank you. It's a boarding facility. So there are root cause issues also that need to be addressed as a society, and nobody is addressing those. It starts with holding people accountable, and I wish the first step that could be taken was the president, who now the buck stops with him saying, I'm sorry, Mr. Cabinet Secretary, this happened under your watch. We said no, never again to these fires. You lose your job. The permanent secretary, principal secretary, sorry, you lose your job. If there was that level of accountability, now the next person who steps into those shoes would say, can we first establish that educational standards and safety council that's not there? Can we secondly ensure that each school is being inspected and audited on an annual basis or even biannually? And can we get those reports? Can there be enforcement? People will do their job.
And you see now, you know, we cannot finish, although we are running out of time. We cannot finish without looking at the casual manner in which people are assuming roles in this country. And I don't know where we're going to pin. I don't know who to pin on this issue. But you can find a whole cabinet secretary who walks into a new job and is just there, does not peruse files, it does not seek for information on what was going on here. It's like, you know, there is a casual manner in which offices are being occupied in this country. It's like people are going to that office to do nothing, just to enjoy themselves and get the parks and the emoluments and all these things. And I feel like it needs to be addressed, and we need to come to the place where we know if you are being given an office, it's a responsibility that has been placed on your shoulders. And if you do not work, you are responsible, you should pay for it. We must just break that casual manner. But it cannot also break, it cannot break unless there is a cracking of the whip. And who is going to do it? Unless the appointing authority, if it's the president or if it's the minister or if it's whoever, unless they crack the whip. And even that sub-county education officer has ability to go to a principal and crack the whip and make sure things are running. So the casuality, the casual manner in which we handle our issues.
I'll start with your first question. Who's ultimately accountable? It is the citizen of this country.
Yeah.
Because the citizens are responsible for the leaders or the brand of leaders or quality of leadership we are getting in this country.
Yes.
So the citizens appoint the executive, all right? So that's the first point of accountability. And like I've said, the leaders are only a reflection of the people who elect them. So if as a country, the standard is that low, we have to now stop blaming the leaders and ask who is appointing this brand of leaders. There's a lot of incompetence, like you noticed. People are just coming to enjoy the trappings of power, the money that goes with it, the power, the fame, the influence and all that, but they're not settling down to the job. The second issue is the way we conduct politics in this country. Like I said earlier, politics, leadership, is supposed to be issue-based, not tribal-based. Now you're seeing everybody going into their little tribal cocoons, people making tribal statements. You're seeing the same old. So again, we as citizens should evaluate leaders based on their performance. Now it's a report card. Now it's a time to look at, it's a job interview for somebody who's new, or a report, let's call it a continuous assessment, or annual, in this case, 5-year assessment of the person's job. If they're not doing their job properly, they should not continue in that job. You should fire them and get the right people. If we started from there, then that leader would be very serious about who they delegate to those roles, because they know they will be held to accountable. It's their job. They are public servants. So again, they would now, to the person they've delegated authority at CS level, be able to hold that person accountable, and if they are not doing their job, fire them. Below that, now the CS would also hold the, and now you can see the chain of accountability following the chain of command.
Yes.
So we have a problem in this country that starts with the citizen who is, like you said, lackadaisical, just, you know, very casual about these things and the brand of leaders we are getting and how people get into office. That's why you'll see, sorry to say, somebody land in a chopper, their media team, TikTok people are busy taking videos and photos, posting. You know, and posting, and this posing at the site of a tragedy. Why are we accepting that as a standard? Number two, why are we always doing things after the fact? Where were all these people? This institution, by the way, is affiliated with the National Police Service. That's why it's called Utumishi, right? So if an institution has close proximity to a military base, has close proximity to authority figures, in this case it's associated with the National Police Service on one side, and then it is next to all these institutions, there was an issue of response. How long did it take for the firefighters to respond to this? There is an issue right there. So at the end of the day, we are suffering continued incompetence because as a society we've accepted that these standards are right, and people are losing children, people are losing their lives, people are losing property, schools are being destroyed, and nobody's being held to account. We need to be serious about this. As a society, like I said, you go into buildings, are there fire extinguishers? No. When they are there, do people know how to use it? No. Are there fire drills? I went to a company, a state corporation, Kenya Power, and it's good to give credit where it's due. And there was a fire drill going on, but they had so perfectly simulated it that even as a professional, I could not tell whether it was a real fire or a drill, because I smelled smoke, I smelled burning plastic, and everything happened as if it was an actual fire. I remember in that case, the only problem they had is that, for example, my vehicle was blocked in, they locked the gates. You shouldn't lock the gates, people should be able to, you know, to leave. But they were arguing, well, there's a fire evacuation point. I was going to the MD's office, so I'm a client. I don't work for them. I don't know where the assembly point is, and nobody told me that. The fire marshals never directed me to that. So I went to my car, and then I couldn't drive it out of the place. But I give them credit because there was a fire drill. It was very realistic. It was simulated in a way that, you know, mimicked an actual fire. And most importantly, it was actually done at random. That is good. So the bottom line is, as a society, we need to change our mindset. Safety, for example, is not the highest consideration. I talked about priorities. One, the ministry is not funding these schools to be able to implement this policy. So you can set all the policies and standards you want to set, but are the schools receiving enough funds to be able to buy these resources and implement and execute, which was your first point. Number two, in terms of inspections and audits. Number three, in terms of holding people accountable when these standards are not met. We have failures at multiple levels with all these stakeholders. Nobody's being held to account.
And of course, we cannot discount corruption, because you see somebody that is answerable. That is supposed to take responsibility. You see some defend themselves using money, and you find someone that was supposed to be fired, they are not fired, and maybe they are given another institution to go and lead and repeat the same failures in the other institution. We are in a terrible place when it comes to implementation. And I will give you closing remarks because we have come to the tail end of this program. But I see the failure in implementation of the safety protocols in schools could be a red flag all over the whole country and in every department, that we have so much policies, so many policies in place, but implementation is nil, and it looks like those who are supposed to implement it are just not willing to do it, and they are preoccupied with other things. Do you think this is a reflection of implementation throughout, cutting across the board?
First, I will start where you started, corruption. A lot of this, we are seeing corruption in appointments. Now you're hearing people go to politicians to get appointment letters as teachers. You hear that story said again and again, for people to get into these roles, even those cabinet secretaries, you know, there's cronyism, there's all kinds of nepotism, there's all kinds of corruption just for people to get into those roles. And that's why you're seeing people not taking their jobs seriously. There's now corruption in how we do business. I said our priorities are wrong. How much money is exchanging hands within the context of schools and the ministry? There's a lot of money, but is it going to the right places? No, it is not going to the right places. Like I said, a lot of these educational officials, most of the time they visit schools with goals that are around, you know, the wrong priorities. You know, they hope to make money here. They hope to, you know, even how books are being bought and implemented. There's a whole system of corruption, and the education ministry has challenges with that, and we must start talking about it where it is. Now, in terms of execution, when there is that level of corruption on one side, number two, when there is no accountability when something like this happens, number three, when the citizenry accepts that this is normal so that people keep losing their children, number four, when the laws that are created, the standards that are created, the systems in place, the protocols, the procedures, these manuals, when they are not followed, when there is no proper accounting for whether a school is, you know, is when it gets inspected, is it meeting those standards or not? All these things put together, that's where there's failure in execution, that's where there's failure in accountability, and that's why there's failure in actually ensuring the next tragedy doesn't happen. And that's why I said, unfortunately, we'll be here again discussing the same things unless we say enough is enough, we draw the line, let there be total accountability all the way to the top.
Thank you so much, John Kabugi, for being here and speaking to us on this very burning issue. And definitely, of course, we have to offer our condolences to families that are so devastated by the loss of their children. And we are saying, God also comfort you. And we are saying, those who are in office today, please make sure it does not happen again. And let us pick the warning sign from here, and let every other cabinet secretary and principal secretaries go and implement policies that are supposed to be in place. Let us not wait for tragedy to strike. And then we are here running around, flying around with the chopper as if we were not in office, as if we had slept somewhere. It is time that leaders take responsibility. And the bottom line is implement the policies, because we are good at policy making. We are poorest at policy implementation. So we have to call it a day and keep it EBN throughout the day, and let's do this again next Friday, talking about leadership, striking conversations that will help leadership in this country. And from us here in this studio, it is bye-bye, and see you next time. Thank you.
You are watching EBN TV, transforming your world.